So you just got yourself a free Xinyan. Here's the 3 ways you can build her. So Xinyan can be a main DPS, a sub DPS burst spammer, or a shielder who supports a physical main DPS. Now most of her damage is physical, and while she is viable as a physical main DPS, she is still outclassed by Razor. Her shield is the weakest shield out of all shielders in the game, and her burst, while it does a lot of damage, it can't benefit from reactions since it's physical. So the maximum potential damage isn't as high as other characters. So in summary, she doesn't really shine at any one thing, but it is still completely viable to use her, and she is super fun to use. She has a fairly simple gameplay. Just make sure you have shields as much as possible, so she gets 15% physical damage bonus from her shield, and then spam normal attacks or charge attacks, and finally use her burst after surrounding yourself with enemies. Just make sure you have a shield before using her burst. Let's talk about her talents. When you use her elemental skill, it generates a shield. The more enemies you hit, the more powerful the shield. If you hit 3 enemies, you get periodic pyro pulses for as long as the shield is up. This does a tiny bit of pyro damage, so it isn't a big deal. However, it becomes important in one of the builds, which we'll talk about later. The 3 enemies requirement gets reduced to 2 enemies once you get this talent. And whoever is the active character on the field who has Xinyan Shield deals 15% increased physical damage with this talent. And finally, her burst is an AoE physical damage explosion followed by tiny bits of pyro damage. For her weapons, her main DPS, Skyward Pride, is at the top, as this allows her to spam her burst given the energy recharge. Skyward Pride also has this unique passive which gives Vacuum Blades, which does additional damage after every burst. This additional damage is physical damage, which benefits from all physical damage bonuses, including talents and artifacts. Now all the 5 stars, the Unforged, Wolf's Gravestone, and Song of Broken Pines are all good weapons for her. Serpent Spine at max refinement can be better than the 5 stars if she is able to keep all the stacks of the Serpent Spine. For F2P, Snowtomb Star Silver and Prototype Archaic are fine, but I recommend Archaic more since Star Silver has a situational passive. For a sub DPS burst spammer, any energy recharge claymore is good. If you played in the last patch, you will have this F2P weapon called the Luxurious Sea Lord, or some most people call it the Tuna. This works incredibly well for a burst spammer. And Blackcliff Slasher becomes more viable as a 4-star option if you have a C2 Xinyan, which allows you to completely focus on crit damage. More on that later. And finally, for a physical support and shielder, what you want is the Sacrificial Greatsword, as this allows her to reset her shield cooldown, which is pretty high at 18 seconds. The periodic pyro damage from her level 3 shield also has a chance to trigger the Sacrificial Greatsword passive, making it almost guaranteed to reset the skill cooldown even if you didn't trigger the reset on the first use of the skill. Now on to artifacts. For main DPS, you want a 2-piece Pale Flame and 2-piece Bloodstained Chivalry. This is just straight up more physical damage, which will benefit both her normal and charge attacks and her burst, as well as the Vacuum Blades from Skyward Pride if you're using that. For the main stats, you want an attack percent Sands, physical damage bonus Goblet, and crit rate or crit damage on the circlet. Remember to aim for a ratio of 1:2 crit rate to crit damage. And then for the substats, you always want crit rate and crit damage. Any energy recharge substat or attack percent substat is also a good substat. Now for a sub DPS burst spammer, this same 2-piece combination can be used, or a 4-piece Noblesse Oblige if nobody on the team is using a 4-piece Noblesse Oblige. In this role, you want some energy recharge, enough to be able to spam your burst. So look for that in substats, or opt to go for an ER Sands when you're not able to spam your burst. For a physical support and shielder, you have to combine the Sacrificial Greatsword with the 4-piece Tenacity of Millilith. This works well because not only does it mitigate the weakness of the shield by giving more shield strength, it also allows consistent procs of the attack buff from the 4-piece bonus because of the periodic pyro damage coming from Xinyan's shield. For her Constellations, C1 is absolutely worth for a main DPS. You will feel that change in attack speed. C2 makes your burst guaranteed to crit. This allows you to focus on crit damage stats without worrying about crit rate. But it's only advisable to build this way if you're using her as a sub DPS burst spammer, because if you're using her as a main DPS, you still want a decent crit rate because your normal attacks will not crit if you don't have crit rate. C4 allows you to deal more physical damage with Xinyan or with your physical main DPS by reducing their resistance. This makes her more viable as a physical support and shielder. Finally, C6 makes her charge attacks consume less stamina and deal more damage. So this benefits a main DPS Xinyan and makes her a spin to win machine. For team compositions, if she will be used as a main DPS, you need a Cryo and Electro for Superconduct because this reduces enemies' physical resistance. If you have a C6 Rosaria, then definitely put her in as her C6 reduces more physical resistance. If not, Kaya or Diona are fine, then Fischl, Beidou or Raiden Shogun for the Electro part, and finally Bennett. Always put Bennett. Just Bennett. As a sub DPS burst spammer, literally any team. Although she will benefit a lot from a pyro focused team because she will get more pyro particles, therefore be able to spam her burst easier. For a physical support and shielder, for example, she's going to be supporting Eula or Razor, then just fill in the missing superconduct element. If you're using Eula, add an Electro. If you're using Razor, add a Cryo. And then add Bennett and Xinyan, and you're done.
Teamwork is dreamwork! Lights out. Try not to enjoy this. Pyrotechnics! Amp it up! Power chord! Let's light it up! Everybody stand back! Lights out. Shadow Raven! Judgment! Shrug till I'm dead! Or feel the beat! Punishment! Amp it up! Amp it up! Under rock! Under rock! Shrug till I'm dead! Amp it up! Come a little closer.
So I hope you found value in this Xinyan build guide video. I cover NFT games and anime games in general, so if you like any of that type of content, make sure you hit that follow, hit that subscribe, whatever the button is where you find this video in, and join our Discord. It's discord.gg/xnull. We have 13,000 members, people who love anime games, NFT games, all that good stuff. Link in the description. I also go live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday on fb.gg/xnullph. I'll see you there.
Look at the camera. Why is she looking at the camera? Let's just take this picture. Yeah. Look at this photo we took of you. This is astonishing. This is some kind of magic.